Air evolution. What are you breathing?
Hey everybody. Since September 11th, 2001, and perhaps even some point before that, there has been a lot of discussion about the presence of war and violence in the Quran. And some in the United States have often said that that's their reason for fearing Muslim people because they feel that there's too much violence in the book of the religion. So this video is to highlight a very, very important fact. Before anyone in our nation can decry anything about violence being in a religion, if you consider yourself to be Christian, you have to also recognize the violence and declarations of war that are in the Bible. I'm only going to name the scriptures, some of the ones that I have found. I'm not going to actually read them because if you're a Christian, you have a Bible, you can read them for yourself. But I want you to take a look at what is said in Leviticus 20, verse 11, Numbers 31, verse 2, all of Deuteronomy 20, 1 Samuel 15, Joshua chapter 6, Joshua chapter 11, 1 Samuel 15, Joshua chapter 4, Exodus 21:12, and Exodus 22:19. And when you read those verses, I want you to ask yourself, why did God give permission to the people he was speaking to murder and assault and victimize men, women, and children? In some of these verses, it's very specific. It even says to kill the animals, just to like totally be rid of whoever these people are. And you hear about the exact same thing being said in some of the verses of the Quran, like similar themes of the need to kill. Now, one thing is different though. In the Quran, I have not seen anything that's said about killing children, women and children. I haven't seen that. But in the Bible, it says it's giving permission to the people who God is speaking to kill everybody, men, women, and children. So if you're a Christian and you're going to say that you are going to be fearful of the religion of Islam because of what it says about violence in it, you have to take a look at the Bible and be honest with yourself, because the Bible is full of violence as well. Now, something that Christians will take note of is that those statements about violence and declaring violence, and that those particular chapters that I mentioned are giving instructions to the Israelites at that time period about how to partake in war in that time period. And so you're saying, well, it's far removed because historically speaking, it's that time, it's not this time. Why can't you apply the same thing whenever you consider the Quran? Because one thing that Quranic scholars mention is that you have to take the historical context of what has been written to understand it. For example, the second surah, called Al-Baqarah, explains there's a specific time period in the Prophet's life that particular surah was written, and it was explaining how, because they were in the places that the Muslims were living at that time period, they were under a lot of assault from the surrounding people. And in this particular surah, God is explaining how to properly handle that situation, and it's included into the Quran because it was God's commandments to the Muslim people of that time period how to properly handle themselves. And God also gave them instructions on how to handle treaties, how to handle peace offerings from warring tribes in the region. And so if you understand that the Bible has some sort of historical context that needs to be applied when understanding, and you have to also do the same thing for the Quran, and you cannot say that either one of these books is more prone to violence. There is violence in the Torah, the Bible, and in the Quran. There's violence in all of these books. And it does not indicate that the religion promotes violence, not any of these. This is not about violence. Matter of fact, if you look at these three particular religions, you'll find that they actually have a lot more in common than differences. And so what I wanted to say was I wanted to read this particular surah, I wanted to read from one of the surah in the Quran, and this is the English translation. It says, "Surely those who believe, and the Jews, and the Christians, and the Sabians, whoever have faith with true hearts in Allah and in the last day, and do good deeds, their reward is with their Lord, and there shall be no fear before them, nor any grief." So if you notice the beginning of that particular section in the surah, it says that it gives the same blessings and promises from God to who? To those who believe in Islam, to the Jews, to the Christians, and to the Sabians. I don't know who the Sabians are. I'm thinking that there's a particular historical context that will say who these people are. But if you notice, and this is in many sections of the Quran, that the same people are mentioned, that the Jews and the Christians are included among those who are receiving the blessings of God because they believe in God, they believe in the one God. So I'm making this video to express to people in the United States that you should not be fearing the religion of Islam. We need to separate our thinking from religion and politics. The United States does things that we as the people don't always agree with. Just like Russia, what Putin has done, I'm sure that there are people in Russia who don't agree with it. There are people in China who don't agree with what goes on in their country. There are people in Japan who don't agree all the time. England. Every country that you go to, there are going to be people who don't agree with what their leadership is doing. And the religion itself, it has to be separated from the political actions, the political things that we think about when we apply our decisions politically speaking. I say that to add this. You should never, ever fear anyone because of their religion.